Lightning Bolt. One of the most classical cards of Magic. Always the bane of Standard. Classical piece in Modern. Probably too powerful for even Pioneer. Lightning Bolt, worthy enough of an entire video by both Talorian Community College, Rhystic Study, and SBMTG. But oh Lightning Bolt, do you think you're worthy of an entire, multi-part video series? Yes, the answer is yes. Lightning Bolt there's so much to Lightning Bolt. Just the concept of this deal damage to target creature or player, usually to target creature, this whole spell compendium is just so red that there's like millions of them to look. Okay, not millions. There's a ton to look through though. So join me in this video in which we make a tier list out of all the 1-mana Lightning Bolt type spells that I count as 1 mana and that I put in this tier list and didn't forget about, and then we'll see what we learn from it. Lightning Bolt was first printed in Magic's first set, Alpha, which is the really expensive one. It was also the key card in one of Magic's first combo decks, a pile of Lightning Bolts and 15 mountains. This degenerate combo deck led to the rule that you can only have 4 of each card in your deck. Richard Garfield was so scared of Lightning Bolt that the next time he designed a card, he just removed 1 from the numbers. He made Shock. Shockingly, Shock is still good and actually balanced. Shock is actually the balanced version of this effect. Now over the years, Magic R&D has also experimented with other versions of Lightning Bolt, with drawbacks, or other things that they do. And some of these have ended up being very good. Some of them have ended up being almost as playable, or in some cases more playable in certain decks than Lightning Bolt. Though in most cases, they're just an additional card that is Lightning Bolt, basically. And you run it alongside Lightning Bolt. However, some of these 1-mana spells that mimic Lightning Bolt do other things. And some of them are literally just Lightning Bolt with a downside, or a restriction of some kind, and they're still playable. And yeah, so let's go over them and rank them into a basic tier list. Let's go. This is what the different rankings in the tier list mean to me. I'm also going to have this in a pinned comment or the description down below, so you don't have to pause the video, you can just check that. First up, we have Sonic Seizure. Sonic Seizure isn't just a worse Lightning Bolt, it's a very bad card. You do not want to play this. Instant D tier. Tarfire is not a Lightning Bolt, it is in fact a Shock, and also it does things that Lightning Bolt doesn't. The main 2 things I can think of is that it gets hit off of Goblin Ringleader and it gives +1/+1 to Tarmogoyf. However, it's still a Shock, and that means that it can't hit creatures with toughness 3. So I'm going to put it in C tier. Forked Bolt is just a good Magic card. It's a 2-for-1, and it only costs 1 mana. I would put Forked Bolt on the same tier as Lightning Bolt, in how versatile and good it is. However, it is held back by not being an instant. Strafe is the removal side of Lightning Bolt, and against non-red decks, this is just a removal spell for 1 mana. Even with all these restrictions, being sorcery speed, only hitting non-red creatures, it's still actually good. Would you rather have this, or this? Yes, easy choice. And that's why I'm putting it in C tier. Fiery Impulse is an instant speed 2 damage to target creature, and in certain cubes this can help signal archetypes. The fact that it can't hit the face is okay. Is it lower powered? Yes, but is it bad? No. And I'm going to make the controversial decision of putting it in B tier. Wild Slash is the definition of strictly better, and it went up to $5. That's right, this uncommon went up to $5. Cats. How much is it now? Not $5 anymore. Pricing aside, the ability to prevent the prevention of damage is actually, good. It's one of the reasons Bone Crusher Giant is up there with Bolt as one of the strongest cards in red. And it still sees play in Pioneer, just not as much as it used to, because it was edged out by Magma Spray. And of course, Magma Spray can only hit creatures, but it exiles them, which is relevant in Pioneer. Not a burn spell, especially when it only deals 2 damage. Like the difference between having 3 Wild Slashes in hand to deal 6 damage and 3 Bolts in hand to deal half your opponent's life total, like almost 1/4, I can't do math, 1/4 of your opponent's life total. Like 6 is much worse than 9. With all that said, this card goes in the B tier. Burst Lightning, along with a lot of cards, like to avoid the 3 damage of Lightning Bolt and decides that it's either going to do 2 damage or 4 damage. This versatility allows it to kill a larger creature late game, or hit an opponent for more damage late game, while still being a very useful card in the early race. I think this card's just good. Very solid B tier card. Firebolt is like Burst Lightning, but with an upside. Now, it's got actually a lot of upsides. First, it can be a 2-for-1, because you can target 2 different creatures. And second, it can be used from the graveyard, so if you mill it into the graveyard, you can just cast it and it's like a free spell. And fourth, it comes out from the graveyard, so if it gets milled or discarded, Like I said, if your opponent discards it from your hand, it's better than Bolt. If your opponent mills you, or if you're milling yourself, it's better than Bolt, assuming that you actually get to 5 mana and can cast it. If your opponent has a 4 toughness creature, you can cast it and flash it back in the same turn for 6 mana. For all of these reasons, I would say that Firebolt is very much akin to Forked Bolt, which is kind of funny that all 3 of the bolts are ending up in the top part of the tier list. Anyway, I'm quite happy putting it in A tier. Yes, I know that Firebolt doesn't see much play. That's mostly because of its legality. Reckless Airstrike is good for the same reason that Fiery Impulse is good. It's very, very good at signaling synergies in your cube. So if your cube has a lot of artifacts and a lot of flyers, putting this card in signals that those things will be relevant to be killed by this card. And also it's good, like 1 mana to destroy an artifact, that's good. And then if you can also kill an annoying flyer, like this card might even be relevant in EDH. Not good, overpowered in EDH because it's a sorcery, but it could be a 1 mana destroy a Soul Ring. That's not bad. I can't say I'd be unhappy to have this card in my hand. Shard Volley is the poor man's Lightning Bolt, and it's okay. The downside is very real for non-burn decks, since sacrificing a land is pretty horrible. But if you're about to win the game by burning your opponent out with Lightning Bolts, then it doesn't really matter, and you can always sack the land that you tapped to cast this. In most cases, you'd rather pay 1 additional mana for Lightning Strike than to sack a land for this sad thing, so I'm going to put this in C tier. The downside doesn't make it unplayable, it just makes it playable in very specific situations. And speaking of downsides with upsides that are upside downsides, we have Lightning Axe, which has a downside that's also an upside. In most formats, you're going to be having some kind of archetype that wants to discard cards, whether it be Madness or Dredge or something like that, and the ability to turn that on just by removing an opponent's creature is good. Otherwise, this is 1 for 2, which is just like, why would you want to discard a card? But like, discarding a card can sometimes be good and not just the same thing as losing a card. Like, for example, sacrificing a land! Anyway, Lightning Axe is also a reference to Lava Axe, which I just love, even though it's hitting a creature and not a play, whatever. I mean, a Lightning Axe that hit a player for 5 damage would be kind of insane. And because of all this, I'm going to put it in B tier. Lava Spike has a similar downside to Shard Volley in the fact that it's only good in certain decks. Like, if you're playing the actual burn deck, the burn combo deck where you just hit your opponent with 7 burn spells and they lose, this card's good and it's fine, but you're not going to be able to take creatures out with it, and so if you need to, you can't. It's literally the epitome of burn, and so yet again, it's good in a cube if you want to signal archetypes, but it's not really the 1 mana removal spell that Bolt often is, so it goes in C tier. Chain Lightning is Bolt, but it's at sorcery speed, and there's some other text on it. It is an A tier card. It's probably not playable in EDH because it's not an instant, but it's definitely A tier. Definitely. This silly magic card is S tier. Not to date this video too much, but in the Forgotten Realms standard, this card is really strong, and it hits planeswalkers, and because of that, I'm putting it in B tier. Last up in 1-drops is Collateral Damage, which is Bolt, but you have to sack a creature. Some people have tried to play this in Pioneer because they think it's good, because if your opponent's trying to target one of your things with removal, then you can just cast this in response to either bolt them or bolt their creature. The difference between this and Shard Volley is that Shard Volley can be played in a mono burn deck without very many creatures in it, and so you don't actually have to have a creature on board in order to cast it, while this one you have to have a creature in order to cast this. I'm going to go on a limb here and say it's probably B tier. And that's it! We're done! There definitely aren't any other burn spells, and I definitely didn't miss any. No, I didn't miss Blazing Volley. You're a Blazing Volley. Your face is a Blazing Volley. Also, I didn't mention Blazing Salvo because I can't even figure out if it's good or not, or where to put it. Also, if you were wondering where all the 1 damage spells are, they're over here. These are the good ones, and then these are the bad ones, and none of them really compare to Bolt, because they do different things. What was that? I didn't finish the video. This is Reckless Abandon. That's a card that has more reach than Collateral Damage, but it's not instant speed, so you can't use it in response to removal, so it's always going to be 2 cards for 1 card, or killing the opponent. I would say this card is definitely C. Speaking of C, what do we see here? Check it out! Flame Slash. It's 4 damage rather than 3 damage, but it's not instant speed. This is definitely very playable. In Modern, it kills Urza, larger Tarmogoyfs, Thought-Knot Seer, that Courser of Kruphix that you shouldn't be playing in EDH because it reveals the top card of your library. It's just not instant speed, so B tier? And then we have Galvanic Bombardment, which basically is going to do 2 damage to target creature. I can't give him more than a C tier. Like, I can't say this card's really good. Maybe if in your cube, when you pick this, you also get 3 others, that could be good. Finally, we have Goblin Grenade, which is very much like that made-up card I showed earlier. Goblin Grenade is, I mean, it's good. 5 damage, You just need 4 of these and 4 goblins, and then you win the game. So I'm going to put this in Goblin tier. Yep, I get to make up a new tier. I have a theory that this card has limited R&D's design for goblins, and that's why they really don't want to print any more strong goblins, because this could just take over. Electrostatic Bolt is good at sending cube signals, C tier. Mugging is good at, it's bad, D tier. Shock is good, I'm going to say C tier, but definitely the bottom of C tier. Pillar of Flame is good because it can signal that Graveyard matters in cube, and that's about it. It's not that good. It's a sorcery. Unholy Heat can do 2 damage or it can do 6 damage, and the fact that it can do 6 damage if you meet its requirement means that late game it's going to be a very, very good removal spell, while early game it can get rid of most of the stuff that's actually going to come out early game. And so for those reasons, I'm going to place it in B tier. Now, this isn't because it's really good in like Modern or something, it's because it's good in cube, it signals well. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Should have said that at the beginning, but please subscribe if you want to see my journey into the land of Bolt.
And a Goblin Grenade. Whoa. Come on. I think we got it. Do we have it? I don't believe it. We're 4-0. And Goblin Grenade has won us so many matches. It's insane. It's crazy.